Hey everyone, this is the sequel, my top 10 favorite series of 2024. Number 10, Iwaju. This one was a very delightful surprise. Imagine a Disney film set in Nigeria with Nigerian characters. I never ever thought I would see something like that. If I would see it, not in the year 2024. But fortunately, I saw it in the year 2024 and it was a delight. And this show is not just style over quality. It has a very interesting story that keeps you intrigued, keeps you entertained, and keeps you glued to your screen. The characters are interesting, the story is engaging, the world is setting is very, very inviting, and I just feel so glad to watch this, especially if you're a Nigerian. I know I was so excited when I watched this series, and Iwaju was honestly a breath of fresh air. Number 9, The Boys Season 4. Honestly, I could have taken The Boys Season 4 out of this list, but there are some things that I really like about it, so it still has to be on this list. I'm a fan of The Boys, but I don't watch The Boys for the story. I watch The Boys for the horror of it, for the gore of it. That's what I watch The Boys for. Yes, the story in Season 4 was not as great as the previous seasons, and there are a lot of things that happened in this season that felt unrealistic with this world. But it was still a very, very enjoyable thing because it gave me a lot of things that I was looking for. The gore, the blood, the horror. It satisfied all that need I had. Plus, there were some interesting new characters that they added to this season. Characters like Sage, Firecracker. Those two characters added more to the story. Another character that I really liked this season, even though it was not a new character, was A-Train. The journey that they've been taking A-Train on has been a journey that I did not expect. And A-Train is slowly making his way into my heart as probably one of my favorite characters in this show. So what they did with A-Train, the new characters, the blood and the gore, all those things satisfied me in season 4 of The Boys. Number 8, House of the Dragon season 2. Yes, I'm sure a lot of people will be surprised that House of the Dragon season 2 is this low on my list, and for good reason because I expected a lot of things in House of the Dragon season 2. Not that it didn't do very well, the story was very good, the character development of the characters, it was needed and it was done right. When the characters started in episode 1 and when they ended in episode 8, that character development was done extremely well. So the character development, the writing, and the story building, everything was done so well. But I wanted the world to fully escalate in this season, but it hasn't escalated completely. It has been blowing up sportsmen in some places, but I want it to explode more than it has exploded. So because I didn't get the explosion I was waiting for, it just made me put it this low on this list. Even though it had some moments that were awe-inspiring, I just felt like season 2 could have offered me more than it gave me. Number 7, Chaos. Anytime I think about this show, I get so mad at Netflix because Netflix cancelled this brilliant show. This show that is out of the box. How could Netflix have done that shit? This story features the Greek mythology in a modern world. That premise alone was very, very fascinating, and that's the first thing that drew me into seeing this series. And seeing it and seeing how all those elements are explored just blew my mind, and I love the story so much. The characters were interesting, the cinematography was amazing, the storytelling, the world building, everything came together so well for this series, and I was so intrigued and so hooked watching this series until Netflix cancelled it. Fuck you, Netflix! But then, this series was a fantastic series. Number 6, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. When I saw there was going to be a new Mr. and Mrs. Smith series, I had an expectation for it. But the way this story is told, it takes a different direction, and it was so good for me. I talked to some friends about this series, and they said they did not like it because of the lovey-dovey aspects of this story. And that was honestly the thing I loved most about it. The love between these characters, or the relationship between these characters, the chemistry between the actors, all those things were so good. Like anytime those characters were on scene, I was just glued, looking like a fool, watching them do their shit. It was so exciting to me. They didn't have to be so much action sequences. I was just so engaged with the actors and their performances in this film, and the way they just related with each other. It was so good. Plus, there are some crazy side characters in this series that just added so much more to this story. Speaking of the story, the way it is written and the way it is told, just brilliant. Honestly, like I said, I didn't expect this series to take the direction it took, but the direction it took was so good. Number 5, Invincible season 2. This one is kind of like The Boys for me because they are both superhero shows and they are both very, very violent shows. So for those two shows, I'm not really expecting story. I just want to experience the blood and gore and horror of it all. But season 2 of Invincible was actually very interesting. The story expands in a way that I did not expect. Introduction of some characters, exploration into some other worlds, and there's so many other things that was just added to season 2 of Invincible that made the story much bigger and much more interesting. And the blood and gore, it definitely satisfied that. So the things I wanted, blood and gore, check. Story, check. Performances, check. And I loved Invincible season 2 so much. I can't wait for season 3 of Invincible. Number 4, Baby Reindeer. Whew. This series was, oh, I didn't have an expectation going into this series. I didn't see the trailer. I didn't know what it was about, but I've heard good things about it because I think the main actor won an award or something this year. So I was excited to see what this story was about. But this story just went in a way that I did not expect it to go, and it was so tragic, poignant, but so good. This series is inspired by a real life story. The main character or the main actor of this story, the things that happen in this series actually happened to him. And just thinking about all that aspect and thinking about this context of the story and everything, it just breaks my heart so much because this story is a very poignant story. Like, if you're someone that have experienced some kind of things that have happened in this series might actually break you. It's like they're giving you so many gut punches, but you just can't stop taking it. You're just so in awe of the story, the performances, the way it is told, and everything. And it's just so good. The characters are interesting characters. They are flawed, tragic characters. Even the people that are not the good guys in this story, you also have to sympathize with them because they are human. And the way the story is told was just so brilliant. Thinking about it now, self is almost bringing tears to my eyes. That was how good it was. Number 3, Shogun. A classic. This one was so good, so unexpected, so good. One of my friends was insisting I had to watch this show, but I kept pushing it on, pushing it on. I watch it until I finally watch it. And when I watch it, man, I was hooked. I could not stop until the series ended, and this series was so good. There is something about the dialogue of this series that feels like poetry, even though they actually use poetry to do some things in this story. But the dialogue has a very poetic feel to it that just makes your head go a kind of way and gives you butterflies in your stomach. The performances from the actors, whoa, exquisite. The storytelling, the writing, the building and exploration of these characters, so good. Speaking of the characters are morally ambiguous characters, and that makes them much more interesting to watch. And honestly, I did not think this series was going to be as good as it was, but man, it exceeded my expectations. If you've not seen Shogun, go check it out. Number 2, Axe season 3. If you follow my channel very well, you know I'm always talking about how much I like dramas. But if there's something I like more than dramas, it is comedy. And if there's something I like more than comedies and dramas, it is the stories that infuse comedies and dramas together. And that's what the show presented me with. Axe was a wild series. It took me to places that I did not expect. I laughed so many times watching this film, and other times I was broken down and I was bawling my eyes out watching this series. And that's just how good it was. The comedy is not done in a way that is forced. It feels very natural, the comedy. The characters are interesting. And one thing I like about the characters is that the two main characters, the age difference between them is extreme. One is an older woman and the other is a younger woman. And these people of two different generations, they have two different ideals. The younger one is the woke one. The older one is the one that just believes the woke thing is very ridiculous. And seeing the way the woke thing is explored in this show was another thing that I really liked. Sometimes they side with the wokeness and how it helps people. And other times they just point out the ridiculousness of the woke culture. And that was something that I did not expect, but really worked for me. I love this series so much. The characters, the performances, everything, the writing. This story features writers. So it's expected that the writing will be good. And honestly, I love this show so much, and it has to be number 2 on my list because number 1 already had a special place. And speaking of number 1, say it with me. Say it with me. The Penguin. Definitely the Penguin. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it next year. I'm going to say it the year after next year. There's no series that came out in 2024 that would beat the Penguin. This series was fantastic, out of this world. The writers outdid themselves. The way you follow this story and you are rooting for the bad guy, you are rooting for the bad guy to win. You follow this guy as he does terrible things, and you still keep cheering him on. How the fuck do you make me cheer for a bad guy? That was insane. The characters were interesting. damaged characters. The storytelling, it just keeps surprising you at every turn. Where you think you know this is what's going to happen, the writers just take a complete left turn and blow your mind. And it's not the kind of left turn that makes you feel like this thing does not make sense. It's the kind of left turn that makes you see the intelligence and the cunning of these characters and everything with this show. The performances, fuck, the performances by Colin Farrell as the Penguin and Christine Milioti as Sophia Falcone. Whew, those performances were out of this world. Honestly, I have not seen any series in 2024 that is as good as The Penguin. And if you disagree, that's your problem. So, those are my 10 favorite series of the year 2024. What series did you enjoy this 2024? Comment below, let me know. If you watch this video up until now, please like, share this video, and follow me for more contents like this. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Cheers.